Hello friends, it's Mrs. C here with, I almost said cycle 1, but it's not cycle 1 anymore, it's cycle 2. So I just want to take a few minutes today and help us get our minds prepped for cycle 2. Because like I just said, I almost said cycle 1, and we need to take a dive into what we're going to be covering this year in cycle 2. I like to go over the entire year just at a glance. It's on, if you want to grab your foundations guide, you can hit pause and go grab it, and you can look at page 133 in your guide, and that's going to be our year at a glance for cycle 2, and that's just what I'm going to be working off of. This is one of those pages that I never paid any attention to when I first got my guide. If you haven't ever read all the way through your guide, I'm just going to encourage you over the next few weeks before you start, especially if you're a new tutor and especially if you're just completely new to CC, actually read through the guide. I was one of those that's like, what do I just tell me what I need to learn for week 1? Let me just jump into week 1. And I didn't read all of the stuff that was surrounding that, and it is super helpful. They even have like a daily schedule and stuff in here. I mean, there's just so many useful resources and so many questions that I had that could have been answered if I had only read the guide. So we're going to go to page 133 in the guide, which is cycle 2, year at a glance. I love this page because one, it is really cool to just look at if you have a kid going for Memory Masters, all the thing they're going to be doing all year. The page opposite of it is this page that looks like this. That kind of gives you a more visual of what all they're learning, and these huge numbers like 161 people or events and people, just a really cool number. 65 pronouns, like they're just gonna be learning all kinds of things. So yeah, 65 pronouns along with other grammar effects, including 8 parts of speech and 4 purposes of sentence. So anyway, these are 2 really helpful papers when I'm trying to just get my mind ready for this next year. So let's just go over it together. If you are coming back as a tutor this year and you've tutored before, guess what? Math and timeline are always the same every year. It is such a relief your second year in when you realize, oh, okay, this is not new material that I have to learn this year. If you are a new tutor, know that when you sign up to tutor again next year, that you will not have to relearn math and timeline. They are the same all 3 cycles, so we can all rejoice in that. But do be thinking about the multiplication tables. Every year it starts off and I'm like, oh, this is fun, easy peasy, I love doing multiplication tables, and by the time we get to week like 9, everybody's over the multiplication tables. So you might just be thinking, okay, what are some ways that I can make that more interesting for my kids? How can I mix it up so that we're not just so bored with them by the time we get there? If you have masters, you're gonna have to say them all. So just start getting that into your head that you have to, if maybe you've come from the abecedarian class and know you're jumping to masters, that you're going to have to actually be saying out loud each multiplication fact. And just try to start getting your wheels going about what would be a good way to present that. But then the rest of the math is all the same, and it changes up, so it's not quite as painful as the multiplication tables. So Latin this year is going to be our conjugations, and similar to last cycle when we had the declensions, there are lots of different ways to remember if it's present tense or pluperfect tense or all the different tenses. So if you aren't on the Facebook group or on the CC Connected forums, there's lots of good information on there, and I like to jump on there and just try to see all the amazing ideas. I love, like, obviously in my like small community here, I love, but the huge nationwide and worldwide community that is doing CC, there are so many more creative, awesome people out there who come up with just amazing things that they're so nice to share with all of us. So there's some really cool ways to remember the different tenses, so maybe just start paying attention to those and making a note of those. For science, we're going to be doing biomes and planetary stuff, and then we're also going to be getting into like thermodynamics and physics. And so if you're, out and you see something that you feel like might lend itself well to that, whether it's, you see a fun educational shirt that your kid can wear one week. By the way, they have several of those out with like the phases of the moon, which is one of the things we're going to be doing, planets on it. you know, it's just, as a parent, it's just kind of nice to know that that's what's going to be coming up. But then also if you happen to see something that might be a fun little add-in for class. Oh, stick and sand, don't be spending a whole bunch of money, but I just like to kind of be like, oh, look, there's a cute little planet pointer that we could use for a week. I don't know, I'm just making that up, but you know, you can just kind of keep your eyes out for things. For English, we're going to be doing a lot of definitions, and then there's that big list of pronouns that we're going to be doing. So when I very first started CC, I had one little one, and I was just like, oh, history, like we're just going to focus on all of our history sentences, which was fine and great. But as a parent now who has one going into challenge and one that's going to be new to essentials, I would give you my 2 cents, which is focus on English and Latin when you are young and have the time. No. When your kids are young, because it doesn't seem like it's something that's that exciting and they're going to use. But when they get into essentials, it is so handy when they have all those definitions and those lists memorized. It just makes it so much easier. And I have been told that Latin and spending all this time on Latin and really getting those down will make it a lot easier in Challenge A. So I will come back and report on that to you, but I trust my predecessors on those things. I wish that I had spent more time myself learning all the definitions for English. So I'm looking forward to this year to really hammering those in with my kids and myself. Timeline's the same. History, we're gonna be doing medieval history, so super fun. But you'll kind of notice if you're looking down through here, it starts talking about like World War II and the Vietnam War and all of that. And that seems like, well, that's not medieval. So what it is it's medieval through modern history, but more with a European focus. So next cycle we'll do American history, and we'll cover some of those same things, but from a more American focus. So we'll be talking about the Allies and the Axis powers and all of that. But then we'll also be talking about Charlemagne this year. So, you know, if you are looking to plan field trips, if you're someone who does that for your community, having a good idea of what we're going to be covering in history can be helpful for that. Geography usually goes along with history, and so our geography is going to be mostly focused in Europe this year. We will have a little bit of geography that is in the South Pacific Ocean area. I have to tell this story because I just think it's such a funny story. So my first year of CC, I didn't tutor the first half of the year, and then I jumped in the second half of the year because we had a mama that needed to step down, and I had seen it done, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. So I look back on that time and think of how little I knew about tutoring and what I was doing, but I had a very sweet director and she helped me out a lot. But I was prepping my board one night, and we talk a lot about redeeming your own education, and I was just like looking, and we were getting ready to do North Korea and South Korea and that whole week, and I knew the general area that Korea was in. Like I knew it was over in the Asia area. I knew it was close to Japan and China, but I really thought it was an island. I don't know why. I just really thought Korea was an island. And I was talking to my dad, and I was like, Dad, did you know Korea is not an island? Like my whole life, I've just thought it was an island. Like it's connected to China. No wonder we're so frustrated about China not dealing with North Korea and all this stuff. So he laughs at me and he's like, oh yeah, I didn't know that. And I was like, oh man, I thought it was an island like Vietnam. And he goes, well, it is an island like Vietnam because Vietnam is also not an island. And I was like, oh. And I looked, and we were covering Vietnam the next week. So I hadn't gotten there yet to discover that one also wasn't an island. So I appreciate geography now and actually knowing where things are and what they look like and where they are on a map. But that's my little story about my first time through cycle 2. So now you have a leg up. Korea and Vietnam are not islands. So that's geography. And then it also has a list here of all of the hands-on science projects we'll be doing, and then all of our fine art. So you can kind of take a look through there and see, this is the cycle where we get to do paper airplanes, and we get to do the egg drop and the bridges and the catapults towards the end of the year. So that's always really fun. And then this is also the cycle of what I feel like are like my favorite set of artists. So Monet and Degas, Van Gogh, all of those. So super fun to look through those. Oh, and we get to do Beethoven and Brahms. So that's just really fun for the orchestra. But that's just a brief overview of cycle 2. Again, this is on page 133 in your guide if you want to take a minute and go over those. And then I was just going to show you really quick how I get myself set up for just paper-wise for the year. I will do a separate video on my tutor bag and what I like to keep in there and kind of my prop bin, I guess you would call it. So this is mine from last year. I'm gonna show you what it looks like at the end of the year, and this is mine for this year. So I bought a 3-pack of these, so I have one for each cycle. And I'll show you how I organize it, and then as I start to get papers for this year, I will be putting it into my cycle to a little accordion file. So this is just a small one. I think it has 5 or 6 slots. I have tucked in here from last year my tutor planner, and I'm just gonna be real transparent with you guys. I love this tutor planner. I really do. I have one every year and I use it, but mine from this year looks like this. It's pretty much completely blank on the inside. Now, that wasn't because I didn't use it. I do like to use this, especially for review, just because it's easier to pull out than my whole foundations guide. It's small and thin, and I can hand it to a student and not worry about my guide getting torn up. But my first few years of doing it, I did write out everything in here. I had all the hand motions written out and all of that. And I do use this for when we go to when I go to tutor meetings. And especially when we're doing like the fine art or the like great artists part, I like to take notes. I take notes for science too, but especially for those, I like to take notes on, okay, this week we've decided that we need to make sure we do art earlier because it's going to take a long time to dry, or we need to do this science project first out of the 2 that we're doing so that, you know, the chemical reaction can happen, and then we can do the other one while that reaction's happening, and then we'll go back and look at both of them just to make like logistical notes like that about them. I do have some weeks where I did write out, and these are awesome to use if you are gonna have a sub for a week. They're really great for writing out your lesson plans. So this is the week I had a sub, so I did use it, and it's all written out, and I had notes and everything for them. But I do have one of these for every cycle, and I put them in there, and I do have some notes. It's just, I wanted to be honest and say that at this point, I don't use a planner anymore, really. I probably should. Maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I will this time because I'm going to be trying to do these videos early, and I will probably go through and use it more. Okay, so that's just my little confession. My first actual like slot in here is for new grammar materials. So the things I kept, these are cycle specific. So this is what I kept from last year. So I will start putting cycle specific stuff for cycle 2 in there. But things I have in here are, for example, I printed a bunch of pages of the list of prepositions that I had in page protectors. So I have those out, and those are stuck in here. I have my little Mr. Ray that I stuck when we did the ocean zones. He's in there. I have a matching game that I made for stinging cell animals, right? Flatworms, mollusks, those are stinging cell. It's been a little while, guys. Stinging cell animals, little matching game that I had made. I have a 2 baggies of the cycle 1 week 14 history sentence that, sorry, I'm gonna cancel that, that I had printed out and then cut out. So I won't have to redo this if I want to do those same activities again. So I have those all stuck in here. So first slot, new grammar. Second slot I have is hands-on science. My hands-on science is pretty much all the Nicoleum sheets. I do have a couple extra things in there, some scripts that I had from previous years, or just things that I found that were shared on Facebook or other places online that I stick in here. But it is mostly all of the beautiful Nicole Lamb sheets. Now I do save any extras of them that I have, so because sometimes it's nice, especially these that are like got these really awesome pictures and they're printed in color. You know, my director is awesome and she'll usually give me one, but sometimes it's nice to have a couple if you've got a big class to share around. So I like to keep them just so that I have them, and if I happen to lose the copy that she gives me, I have a backup. Then my next one, my next slot is the Great Artist. And so for the Great Artist, I have these that I've printed. These were off of CC Connected, and I don't know if they've reloaded them up there, but I'm sure there are similar things. But they're just pages that show like different examples of art. Then I also have for like the composers, it has a picture of them and a little blurb about their life, which is nice to have right there handy. So just a few pages like that. Then the last two in here are like more second semester. I tried to divide them up by semester. So then I have more of the second semester hands-on science, and then I don't know, I guess the last part in here was just where I stuck extras of extras. But I have some other cycle 2 stuff stuck in here. So that's kind of how I keep that organized. I have one for cycle 3 from my last time through cycle 3, and I'm excited to get a cycle 2 in this year because I only tutored half the year, and like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I directed the next time through cycle 2. So the only things I have in here right now are I have some stuff about Brahms and Dvorak. So I need to get some papers. Anyway, so that is just my little, let's get mentally ready for cycle 2. And I will be back, I don't know when, sometime this week and the next week. That's my plan, to start just trying to do some of these when I can. Depends on how long my toddler naps. About like what's in my tutor bag and what the kind of props that I have that I've ended up using over the years. So anyway, I hope you guys are having an awesome summer, and I will see you back soon. Bye.